Pushkin.
2024 was a rough year for jazz. A lot of legends were lost, from Quincy Jones to Roy Haynes, Lou Donaldson, and Benny Golson. In fact, after the passing of Benny Golson, only one person remains from the iconic 1958 photograph, A Great Day in Harlem, where dozens of jazz luminaries gathered together on a stoop in Harlem to have a photograph taken to memorialize that era. That person is with us today, the great Sonny Rollins. Since I last spoke to Sonny Rollins on the program a few years ago, a couple of interesting artifacts have surfaced. One is the notebook that he kept while he was in self-imposed exile for music between 1958 and 1961. Those were photocopied and made into a wonderful book called The Notebooks of Sonny Rollins, where you can get insight into what he was thinking about at the time, both socially, politically, and in terms of his music. The other are some great live recordings of Sonny in Europe. There's also a great biography published about Sonny Rollins since we last spoke by Aidan Levy called Saxophone, Colossus, The Life and Music of Sonny Rollins. So though last year was a tough year for jazz, I'm honored at the top of 2025 to bring you a conversation with the saxophone colossus himself, Sonny Rollins. This is Broken Record, liner notes for the digital age. I'm Justin Richmond. We spoke a couple of years ago and had a really nice conversation. But I guess since that time, a lot's come out about you. There's been a whole set of records that were previously just bootlegs, that were sets of recordings from Europe in 1959 came out, and those were really beautiful to listen to. You had a biography come out, pretty substantial biography, and a book of your notebooks curated and distilled down into a book form.
Yeah, right.
So I thought, man, maybe it'd be cool to have another conversation and talk about some of this stuff.
Okay, well, I'm down for it. Whatever you think might be important for you or to anybody else to know, give it a shot.
First of all, you did some pretty substantial interviews, it appears to me, from reading the book. For the book, was that an enjoyable process to revisit the entirety of your life the way you did?
Well, as a guy that's been around so long as I have now, who knows, I never thought I'd be one of the last people standing. But I've done a lot of interviews at a lot of different times in my life. But I'm not a guy that likes to look back at my interviews.
Mm. Do you listen to old recordings of yourself anymore?
No, I don't listen to my records. I never have.
Mm.
And which is not always good. I don't think that's good. When I used to work with Miles, he used to, every night that we do a concert, he'd have it recorded and come home and listen to it, and therefore knowing what he needed to do or needed to delete or anything like that.
Mm.
I wish I had that type of personality, but generally I'm always feeling that I'm not, oh God, I hate to hear that. Listen to that I played. I should have played that better. Blah, blah, blah. That's the type of personality that I was damned with for this work that we do.
When Miles would listen back to those recordings, would he have you and the rest of the band listen as well?
No, he would use that, I'm sure, when he was rehearsing the band. But it wasn't listening, everybody listening. I mean, he didn't need that. He listened to what he thought should be happening, and that was it.
But having had the chance to look through some of the pages of your notebooks that you were keeping from around 1959 through the late 60s, it does appear you were very meaningfully recording thoughts about your playing and where you felt improvements could be made. So there is a part of you that was already doing that, it seems to me, but maybe just in a different way.
Well, I was being interviewed a lot,
Mm.
and I had to make comments about something. If the record came out and I had to talk about it,
Yeah.
I heard it, whether it was on the radio or whatever, but I didn't take it home myself and listen to it. That's what I mean.
Got it.
But no, what I said is exactly correct. I'm not a guy that really listened to things that I did more than once or twice to realize, oh man, I really don't like that.
Yeah. I want to ask about Freedom Suite, if you don't mind.
Hmm.
If you can recall, what might have been on your mind around 1958, shortly before you take a bit of a sabbatical and you write and record Freedom Suite. It's a stunning, almost 20-minute piece that is the title song of the album as well. And it seems like it stands out in your early sort of catalog, just that there's nothing quite like that in your early catalog to that date. And so I was just curious if you can recall what was your feeling around that time when that was composed.
Well, I have always been, especially from that period, but also from before. I was sort of a political guy, and it's interesting now that there are a lot of new young black musicians which have been out that are out that have been out, much more recently than my era. But when I was growing up, I was born in Holland. I used to go out when I was, I think, about 3 years old with my grandmother. My grandmother was an activist. She was very much interested in straightening out the racial situation in Harlem and in any place else that they exist today. I don't have to explain that to you. I'll
No.
just say the situation. She was an activist. I think she was a member of Marcus Garvey's group at one time.
Wow.
But anyway, she used to carry me with her, marching up and down Lenox Avenue, for instance, and we were complaining about one of the big department stores there. I think it was called Bloomberg's, which didn't allow black people to sit at the counters and all this kind of stuff. So I remember Free Tom Mooney and the Scottsboro Boys. The Scottsboro Boys has, as you know, were accused of rape and all that, found out to something like the Central Park case
Yeah.
sometime later.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was introduced to that period of activity at an early, very, very early age. And as I said, I was the only one, my grandmother and myself. My mother was interested in politics. My brother turned out to be a medical doctor, so he was busy, although he was interested in music, but not jazz music. So he ended up becoming an MD, so he quit the music thing altogether. And my sister just turned out to be a mother with two kids.
Mm.
So what I'm saying is that my grandmother would carry me, and I liked that. I mean, of course, I'm such a little baby, but I liked that. And then so I got to read people like W.E.B. Du Bois and other people that were into the Black Liberation Movement.
Yeah.
And as I grew up, And I began, I remember W.E.B. Du Bois. Do you know who he was?
Yeah, great scholar, activist, scholar of
Yeah,
Reconstruction,
okay.
and
So W.E. Du Bois used to say that if you ever, and he wasn't talking to me, he was talking to anybody black. He said, if you ever got any place in your field, whatever it was, that you should always mention the fact that you were aware of the situation in the United States.
mm,
Okay, so when I got to the point that I began making records, I always used black songs in there, and I am a guy that I can't recall. You know, I used to be a very good speaker like this, but what happened was some time ago, about a year ago, I had a very serious accident, and it has affected my remembrance, my thought remembrance. But actually, please forgive me sometimes. But what I was saying was I use a lot of Negro ballads, and I put them in my jazz records. You know, the Negro National Anthem.
mm,
I put that in one of my albums a long time ago.
yeah,
With I think Kenny Dorham was playing with me on that. But so I've always done that in my career.
yeah.
So the Freedom Suite, getting back to your question, was all coming from that place.
Mm.
You know, that's sort of what the Freedom Suite was about, and things of that nature. I've just always had that political direction in myself. I read a book recently, and it was mentioning all of these guys that they were, they were speaking up for black independence, a lot of these younger musicians. And I was a little bit, said, oh, wait a minute, where's me? I was doing this a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, that's, it's all on record, so that was the Freedom Street.
You were mentioning a lot of the black ballads that you would early on include in your sets. It's interesting to me that kind of equal to those was your love of show tunes or tunes that might have appeared. I've heard you talk about, for instance, you seen the movie Swing Time when you were about 6 years old with Fred Astaire and Ginger
Yeah.
Rogers, and A Fine Romance being a song that always stuck with you.
Oh, yeah.
How important were those sorts of songs to you as well?
Well, I don't know. I guess if you look back, you might say, well, gee, how did you like that and still want to change the way the society was set up? But in those days, our television was the movies every week. So I had a chance to see a lot of Hollywood movies. There was nothing didn't gel with me.
Yeah.
For instance, my favorite composer, and I had many of them, but my favorite guy was Jerome Kern.
Oh, yeah.
Oh man, Jerome Kern is still my favorite of those Hollywood composers, although I have many of them that I admire deeply. But Jerome Kern was my man. By the way, he did do that picture with Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers.
Right.
Swing Time.
That was his. That was his tune, A Fine Romance, and all those other songs. Yeah.
Yeah, all that stuff, all that, and so many of his stuff. So, but there was never anything that made those not accessible in my mind. I loved Swing Time and such film as much as I hated the fact that I couldn't go into Bloomberg's, which was a big department store on 125th Street, and they were buying a soda or something at the bar. My musical and my sensitivity being moved by these things, it's all the same.
Yeah.
There's nothing different, not to them, to somebody that might write those. I might say, oh, they don't like jazz or something. I've heard that.
Yeah.
I've heard a guy that played with Johnny Green who wrote Body and Soul. I heard him tell me that, oh, well, Johnny Green didn't like jazz people were playing his music. Which to me, I wonder if that was really true, because when Johnny Green was in college, he had a group called the Hot Jazz. I mean, so a lot of these guys gave that impression of, oh, our music is better than your music.
Yeah.
This kind of stuff, which might not have really been true.
And then again, if Johnny Green didn't like you guys playing his tunes, oh well. Maybe in a sense, all the better that you guys were doing it then.
Well, I think it did, but whether he liked it or not, nobody could play Body and Soul like Coleman Hawkins.
Yeah.
That was his masterpiece.
Yeah.
But it really was perfect for jazz, like so many of those songs are. Anyway, I like everything that makes beautiful musical sounds and beautiful musical people. It's all the same to me. I never had a problem when I was listening to some of those early movies, by the way, when Louis Armstrong did a single in the movie. Now, evidently, there's a lot of people that they don't want that America. They want America which is segregated, and that's okay. I mean, it's not okay with me, but I have to accept what they think because that's the way it has turned out. But growing up, I appreciated Paul Robeson and all these people were my really idols, and I wanted to be a regular human being without having to be a black human being, and so on and so forth. So it all made sense to me. It still does. I'm smart enough to realize that in history, it's always people fighting each other. This group is fighting that. They're fighting this. They're fighting that. And we haven't gotten to that point yet, or I don't think we may ever get to that point in this world. Well, I've made my life what it is. So I like Hollywood movies, the music, and I love jazz, and really nothing strange about that combination to me.
Did movies continue throughout your career to be a source of inspiration to you?
Yes, up until the point that I stopped going to movies, but yeah, I would say so. I mean, the American dream was always in me. And racism and all of this stuff somehow can never stop me from liking I'm old-fashioned.
We'll be right back with more of my conversation with Sonny Rollins after the break. You just said that the American dream is always in you. What does that mean to you?
Well, it means that there's a good and there's a not so good. Like Duke Ellington said when they asked Duke Ellington, well, gee, Duke, what do you think about this kind of music and that? And Duke was known to say there's only two kinds of music, good music and bad music.
Yeah.
And that told it all.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
On that note, would you mind if I read to you an excerpt of something you wrote in your journals from around 1959?
Okay. Surprised me because I haven't read my journals or my big book. So, but go ahead, yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I'm sorry if this upsets you. Let me know, but I think it's really beautiful. You say, even if there are more brilliant, quote unquote, jazz in the modern interpretations of the word, more brilliant jazz artists and innovators among the quote unquote Negro race, this in no way contradicts the quasi-racial nature of jazz. And mustn't we start speaking of music, all caps, and not jazz? Cannot this be the same principle by which people are deluded into divisions? Divisions which are treacherously misleading by their external manifestations. Who can deny that the greatest of any music is of a oneness which transcends period, style, country, etc.? It is the same line of reasoning which separates people on the basis of their physical impressions. The point to be absorbed here is that any definition which seeks to separate Bach from Miles Davis is defeating its own purpose of clarification. Thus, we shall now hereafter and henceforth integrate, if you will, the word jazz into the word music. The musings of Miles is then the bouncing of Bach, both played against each other.
Well, okay, but that's exactly how I feel.
Yeah. It seems to be a core part of you, that belief, because just as you said now, you wrote back in 1959 in this same way, that it's all one, not to be discerned by period or style or country or race.
Oh, no, I think so. But that may be a little bit too, I don't know, heavenly or something like that. I mean, maybe the world is just not meant to be like that. Maybe the world is meant to be fighting and fighting all the time. But that's okay. I didn't make the world. I'm not God. So if the world is like this, there must be some reason that I am not attuned to. I don't know everything, but the world has produced and jazz and the whole thing. If you want to go further and talk about America, okay. And I think that's America too, but evidently America is not all. Everybody doesn't think like that, which is it's sad, but it's it's not. I guess I have to just accept it. And I've seen people get along. That's one thing. I've got a lot of white friends, so that's what I see. So for me, it was a great environment. My life was spent playing music and trying to get better. It wasn't. I could have been better, but I always loved it, and I still love it.
Yeah.
Still love Coleman Hawkins' Body and Soul, and I still love Jerome Kern. I still love Nat King Cole, the trio, the King Cole trio.
Yeah. With Israel
Yeah.
on bass and
Right. So, I mean, it's all good, man, especially at this point in my life when I'm the last one standing. I want that to be my epitaph. I loved it all. I loved it all.
you just referenced being the last man standing. As we're speaking, Benny Golson just passed away.
Right.
And that really does make you the last of that fine day in Harlem photo,
Yeah.
which is astonishing.
Astonishing is a good word. It is astonishing.
What came up in you when you heard Benny Golson had left the planet?
Well, when it came down to Benny and myself, at that point, I had thought of all what it meant and what it didn't mean and what it could mean, all that stuff. So it wasn't, and one of us had to go. It's okay. I mean, my time is probably quite soon now, I guess. But, I feel okay about it. I haven't done everything I wanted to do, but I guess the fact that you're interviewing me here, and so I guess I've done some things. I've got some things right. Not everything right, but I've got some things right that I can be grateful for. I do have a very strong spiritual connection in my life now. As you know, I've been into Eastern religion for a long time now. So, that makes things really okay. So whatever comes, hey, it's okay.
Do you have a daily spiritual practice these days?
Well, yes, I do, but it's not like a prayer or something like that. I do say prayers, but not a specific prayer. I went to India back in the 60s, and I got some information there from some people that had something to say that interested me. I wanted to know about should I be practicing and playing and, in other words, was it all okay what my life was at that time? And I got assurance that it was okay.
Mm.
I needed that assurance. I received it from some beautiful people I met over there. So, yes, that spirituality is, as of now, I'm so happy that I did begin studying Eastern religion. I did that when I followed this guy, Paramahansa Yogananda, Autobiography of a Yogi, which was a very popular book. And I read that book and said, boy, I got to find out about this. And I went to California wanting to meet Paramahansa Yogananda. He had just passed on. But so I didn't meet him, but I realized, well, look, I'm going to India because there's something here. And I got a bag and my horn, and I went to India.
Wow.
It paid off. So glad I did it and learned something.
And you passed it to us, in your music. Your music always feels very spiritually elevated, just in terms of the biographical details of your life. That's something that people are very interested in. And so it's something that's a gift that you've given all of us. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for saying that. Look, man, I'm not my biggest fan, so I'm not a guy that think that, oh, I'm Sonny Rollins. Get out of here. I'm not my biggest fan at all. That's how we started the conversation about listening to my own music and all that.
Yeah.
But I didn't get it all. But I made an impression, and I think I've learned something. I'm glad that some people have appreciated some of my work, yeah. But I'm very happy by that. But not that I appreciated it, but that I enabled them to get it,
Yeah.
which validated me. Because as you know, I'm not my biggest fan.
Yeah.
If you come to my house, you won't find portraits of me all over the walls. Okay?
Yeah. I get that sense. You do not appear to be that person.
Oh, good. Okay. I'm glad you got that sense. I'm not that guy.
Last time we spoke, I neglected to ask you about Rufus Harley, bagpipe player.
Right.
What are your remembrances of him and his playing?
I always loved Rufus's playing when I heard him playing. I know he played saxophone before
Yeah.
he got into the bagpipes, but anyway, he was a great musician. I think I had a great concert in New York at Town Hall with Dizzy Gillespie, Charlie Mingus, Rufus Harley, and myself. I forgot. So that was my wife, my dear departed wife, Lucille, who convinced all of those people to make that concert because one of the people had dropped out, and that was a important concert just for my reputation, all that kind of stuff. And she got Mingus. She was good friends with Mingus's wife, Sue. And so she got Mingus, which is not easy to get Mingus to do something he doesn't want to do. And then she got Dizzy come and make that show that night.
And of course, you and Dizzy were great friends. Did you and Mingus get along?
Oh yeah, I mean as much as one would get along with Mingus. We had a little trouble in the beginning because Mingus didn't know me, and I was playing in one of the clubs, and he was playing at, and you know, there's something that Max Roach and Mingus used to do. I guess other guys did it. I didn't know because I was a young guy coming onto the scene. If there were two people on the bill, and Mingus would get on the stage, they'd play the whole night. The whole night. Max would do that too. I've seen Max do that to guys. So it's kind of, but you know, you have to accept it. I did, but I got back at Mingus one time at the Village Vanguard when Mingus didn't play. And Max Gordon called me up. And I said, sure. And I came up, and that sort of caused a little rift between Mingus and I. Let's see who else. This guy, Baraka.
Oh yeah.
Do you know him?
Yeah. Mary, the critic, writer, critic. Yeah.
Right. He was in the club, and they all thought that I was sort of usurping, you know, Mingus's him and everything to play that gig,
Yeah.
which should have been his gig. But it gave me a chance to get back at Mingus. And after that, Mingus and I became close friends.
Were you around his drummer, Danny Richmond, much? I always found it interesting that he really never played with many other drum. I mean, I can think of played with Max Roach a bit, but I always thought that was such a funny pairing. Great pairing, though, musically, but...
No, I never got a chance to play with Danny Richmond. Danny Richmond was always with Mingus at this period. And I never got a chance to hardly know Danny Richmond. But no, unfortunately, we never played together.
Okay.
I'm sure it would have been very evocative, but I never did get a chance to play with him.
Yeah, that would have been interesting to hear you guys together for sure.
Yeah.
Unique player he was, as are you. So,
Uh-huh.
as is Mingus.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, no. I enjoyed his work, but I only heard him with Mingus, you know.
Yeah. You wound up doing a couple of Stevie tunes, but you definitely did Isn't She Lovely at a certain point.
Right.
What did you make of the music of Stevie Wonder?
Well, I think Stevie Wonder's great. I mean, Stevie Wonder had that common touch, if I can put it that way. So he certainly was a person that appealed to the, I'm going to use another term now, which you'll understand it. He appealed to the hip hop generation, but he was also a really great, profound musician who was there for everybody. He was just extremely talented that he had those kind of chops.
Yeah.
I don't know anything. I was wondering one day, gee, I wonder if he ever played with Miles.
It's a good question. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't think so. And what they would think of each other. That would be what I would wonder. Would they appreciate each other?
You know, there was now that you mention it, Miles did have something to say about Stevie. It wasn't so nice. But
Well, you know, Miles.
yeah, he said Stevie Wonder. Now there's a sad motherfucker. He thinks I stole Michael Henderson from him, which I guess was just a player. You know, was a player that he.
You know, Miles was a complete character from A to Z.
Yeah, yeah. When I was reading through your Saxophone Colossus biography, and it got to the section where you played a few songs on the Rolling Stones album, and that chapter sort of talked a bit about how that happened and sort of your thoughts about it and the thoughts of others about it. And the response is interesting because I think some people really enjoy that work. Other people maybe viewed it as an inauthentic move. I was just wondering, the idea of authenticity in jazz music through the 60s and 70s and 80s, was that something that you spent a lot of time thinking about?
Well, I did, and actually, my wife convinced me to make that album. They finally had a way that jazz musicians from the States could play in England. They had a band for some union reason.
All right.
Anyway, finally I began playing and using British musicians, playing with people, getting a following over there, and everything like that. Somehow I found out that Mick Jagger wanted me to play on one of their records. So my reaction was that I thought that that would be a come down for me to do that. And I really had to argue with my wife about that. So she convinced me to do it.
Yeah.
But to me, it was a come down to do that.
Is that because it felt inauthentic to you or for some other reason?
Well, the jazz was of a higher level than the blues music that they were playing.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all. I mean, it
Yeah.
wasn't anything except that.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, what do you want? You want to hear Charlie Parker, or would you want to hear one of those guys?
Yeah, understood.
Yes, so that's the way I was looking at it completely.
Yeah. But then the Beatles and Stevie Wonder as popular musicians felt much more on a similar plane, at least to you.
Yes, and in the terms of the Beatles did have a more rounded repertoire and so on than the Rolling Stones.
Yeah. Okay.
The Rolling Stones did ask me to do the tour of that record that they had put out that I was on, Tattoo You.
Yeah, that's it. After this last break, we'll be back with the rest of my conversation with Sonny Rollins. Would you say, in a sense, the different classes of saxophone players from alto, soprano, alto, tenor, baritone, I mean, were those almost like weight classes in boxing, in a sense?
Well, tenor saxophone took the prime seat because at one time we had some beautiful, of course, we had the great Charlie Parker, the Bebop originator.
Mm-hmm.
And that really shook everything up for a while. But then came the tenor players, Coltrane, Dexter Gordon, and Wardell Gray. All these people, this guy Sonny Rollins, all these guys. So the tenor became the fulcrum, I would say.
It's almost as if because Charlie Parker on alto was just so groundbreaking and just so revered that it almost in hindsight appears that everyone just kind of took a different path after that. Like maybe we need to steer clear of the alto and could that have been what sort of made so many great
That's
players
true.
coalesce around tenor?
We also had the great Coleman Hawkins, the great Lester Young,
Mm-hmm.
the great Ben Webster,
Yeah.
the great Shoeberry. These are some great, great players. Now, we just let Charlie Parker have it because Charlie Parker did what he did, which was beyond instrumentation. So he was always Charlie Parker on alto, but tenor began to take pretty dominant position. We all know we couldn't be Charlie Parker, but we could be Lester Young.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
great, great, great Lester Young.
Yeah.
So they each had their own place. Alto, of course, we had Johnny Hodges, the great, great alto player from Duke Ellington's group. And we had Benny Carter, another great, great alto player. If you played alto great, like these guys did, well, you were set. Nobody was going to mess with Benny Carter. They're going to admire him, admit that he was first class.
Right.
And when it came to tenor, well, as I said, we had a lot of people.
Yeah.
My favorite, the great Coleman Hawkins, but also my other favorite was the great Lester Young.
Hmm.
Both extremely different in their styles, but still so great.
I just had a point of clarification. I read one place, but I haven't been able to find it anywhere else, that you did play in Lionel Hampton's band in the early 50s. Did you ever play in Hamp's band when Quincy Jones was in the band?
No,
No. Okay.
I didn't have a lot of big band experience because just as I was getting to be extremely famous, I started playing with small groups.
Yeah.
And so these big bands, in a way, I missed that opportunity. But time just brought me to be the one. I never played with these guys.
Yeah. What did you make of Quincy Jones? Because he's someone who started in jazz and it never seemed to leave him. It seemed like he always had a deep love of jazz throughout his life, but would often go out into other areas of music.
Well, Quincy had a very wide relationship with jazz. I remember when I first met Quincy, we were both playing in Philadelphia, and we were trying to get that last train coming to New York and get that last train after the last show in Philadelphia.
Wow.
So, boy, then you rush down to the station, and to get that train, sometimes you caught it, sometimes you didn't. I remember with Quincy, we didn't catch it one night, and it was a real pain in the neck, but that we had to stay in Philly overnight. But boy, he had a lot of composition, and Quincy Jones, he definitely made an impression.
It seemed at first he really did want to be an ace trumpet player, but at some point realized, well, I have all these other things that I like and can do, composing or arranging, and he did manage to find his place, even if it wasn't the initial thing he set out for.
Yeah, I think that he wanted to be a trumpet player. I'm not certain, but he was when I first got involved with the Quincy. He was playing trumpet in Dizzy Gillespie's orchestra. Now, I never heard of him play trumpet after that, but I guess he began composing, and hey, that took over.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a terrific musician, terrific musician.
Did you guys keep in touch over the years?
Yeah, I'd meet Quincy a lot of times at the White House and places like that when we'd both be selected as being extraordinary musicians. So
Yeah, you guys received the Presidential Medal of Freedom from Barack Obama.
yeah, and Quincy was probably there at the time.
Yeah.
I remember one time I sang at the Four Seasons in New York, and here came Quincy. This was the time of 9/11. Quincy came in with some other people, and he had on this tin hat that workers use. So I guess he was writing something that had to do with 9/11 or something, but he wrote some kind of music, probably commemorative of that terrible incident that happened to us.
Yeah. What about Lou Donaldson? Did you cross paths with
Oh,
him?
Lou Donaldson. Lou Donaldson was one of my best friends, a saxophonist. He was just a wonderful guy, a person, as well as great. Most of these guys I'm talking about had great, great talent, but they were also wonderful people. That's what's so great about jazz. All of these guys were wonderful people. Lou Donaldson, I wrote something, a little thing after he passed, because I felt so close to Lou, but I never got a chance to see him in later years. But I felt so close to Lou because we were good friends in the early years when he first came on the scene. And we knew each other way back when we used to follow the New York Giants at the Polo Grounds in New York.
Wow.
So privileged I've been to have known Lou Donaldson.
Mm.
So while we're here, we better try to be ready to be judged by something, somewhere, who knows where.
Yeah.
But you gotta be judged, you gotta be a good guy.
Yeah.
I've seen guys that were not so good, and I've seen some good guys.
Yeah.
Anyway, Lou Donaldson, A plus.
Yeah. After Quincy passed away, there was a quote circulating where he said that early on he learned that your music can never be more or less than who you are as a human being. And your comment that so many of these jazz guys and gals were beautiful human beings. I mean, the reason that it must be the reason it's been able to last as long as it has is because of the spirit that's imbued in it from its practitioners. It's really, you guys are really trying to relate to the human condition as closely as you possibly could, and it feels that way still.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened, but I guess that's how it happened. We were so close to the human condition. Through music is such a great thing. All of the guys almost that I know that are well-known musicians were very nice people. They're very nice people. It wasn't all of this stuff, well, gee, Sonny, now you're competing with this guy, and all this. That was not on. Once we played together, they realized, man, this guy must have really studied.
Yeah.
Plus, he had a great natural ability that only God could give us. And yet they were beautiful people. I wish there was something else besides the Jazz Hall of Fame to honor these people for what they are, for what they had to go through. They weren't accepted in America. It took a while before everybody realized, wow, listen to that artistry.
Mm-hmm.
And now, who is there? Lou Donaldson's on. Oh, man. Same. Well, it's not a thing, it's life. I don't control life. I just try to live it.
Right. Well, we don't control it. We just experience it. But it does feel, yeah, I mean, since we last spoke, we lost those people. And also including Roy Haynes,
Roy Haynes, a guy that I never thought would not be here.
Yeah.
Or at least I thought, I think out of here before he would. He's always playing with different artists, best jazz artists, and he had such a wonderful personality. And it was a great honor to know Roy and to play with him on many occasions. He graced much of my music that I played. I remember I did some original things and Roy was there, played on it, and then helped. I want to thank Roy for everything he is. In case I didn't do it before, I wouldn't do it now, man. Thanks, Roy, for being there. He's been a great guy. Life has really has its own dimension. We don't know much about it.
Do you feel as time goes on, you get more comfortable with the not knowing?
Oh, yes, I do. I do, because I tried to get more like a spiritual understanding of life. I've learned a lot, and it's comforted me through my period of life. I'm just sorry I couldn't hang out with some of my friends, but by being a musician, I've reached a lot of people which I couldn't have reached other than being a musician.
Yeah.
and they're hearing my music. So I'm grateful, absolutely grateful. And whatever it is, I'll say soon, I can say this, it's all good. Whatever happens to me in my life with what has happened to me and what's going to happen to me, it's all good. Boy, have I been blessed enormously.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, again, I would, love to give you a ring another time and maybe we can have another conversation. These are really enlightening. So thank you so much.
Well, remember though, I'm one of the last guys standing. Well, I am the last guy standing. So if you have, don't wait too long, man.
All right. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, man. Well, God bless, and I'll talk to you later.
Thanks so much to Sonny Rollins for getting on the phone with me and reflecting back about some of his colleagues and about his life in art. I'm so grateful that we still have him here at the age of 94. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at The Broken Record Pod. You can follow us on Twitter at Broken Record. Broken Record is produced and edited by Leah Rose with marketing help from Eric Sandler and Jordan McMillan. Our engineer is Ben Tolliday. Broken Record is a production of Pushkin Industries. And if you like this show, please remember to share, rate, and review us on your podcast app. Our theme music's by Kenny Beats. I'm Justin Richmond.